Hello, everybody. It's me, Anthony, and it's the time of the week again. It's Anthony's NFL Picks, the wild card. That's right, we are in the wild card now. The playoffs are about to begin, and God, I'm excited to start this off. First things first, I'd like to thank you guys for my latest video, which has over 79 views. Thank you so much. If you're watching this also, please like the video, subscribe, turn on the notification bells to get updated on my newest content, and let's get started. Alright, before we start though, there are two teams that will not be playing because they got the first round bye, and they are the 13-4 Ravens, which are the number 1 seed, and the 12-5 Niners are the number 1 seed. Anyways, let's get started. So, for Saturday, for kicking off wildcard weekend, we got the number 5 seeded Browns and the number 4 seeded Texans. The Browns, they're here after losing against Cincinnati, maybe because they were resting. Joe Flacco has turned this team around, and now they're in a playoff game against the Texans. This is going to be a good game, though. They lost their last game, mainly because their team was resting. Jeff Driscoll was starting, so it doesn't matter. But they're going on to Houston against the hot-seeded Texans, who won the AFC South after knocking out Indianapolis. And the Jaguars also lost to the Titans, costing the Texans to win the division. This is going to be a really good game. They're at the number 4 seed right now. And to be honest, I might think that the Texans are going to probably beat the Browns in a close game. Texans will beat the Browns 34-31. The Texans will move on to the divisional round, and the Browns will be going back to Cancun or Cleveland. But we move on with our next game. Coming up at our next game, we got Saturday Night Football between the 6-seeded Dolphins and the 3rd-seeded Chiefs. Dolphins are here after losing that AFC East matchup against the Bills, causing them to get second place, and now they have a lower seat. And now this is actually the rematch, against Tyreek Hill's former team and the Chiefs, who the Chiefs got that 13-12 victory over the Chargers, mainly because Mahomes and Kelsey were not playing. This is going to be a pretty good game, to be honest. Tyreek's former team, Mahomes, this is going to be a pretty fun game, to be honest, but I think that Kansas City is going to win because it's in Arrowhead. It's in Kansas City. They have a home field advantage. They're all rested up. Dolphins are still coming back from that loss. And however, Bradley Chubb tore his ACL. And that whole Dolphins team is pretty much injured. So I might have to go with the Chiefs on this one. Chiefs will move on to the divisional round and beat the Dolphins 33-29. All right, let's move on with the next game. So, coming up with our next game, we got the low 7-seeded Steelers taking on the 2nd-seeded Bills in Highmark Stadium, Buffalo, New York. Steelers are here after winning and upsetting the Ravens because their starters were not playing 17-10. Mike Tomlin is a good coach, and now they're back in the playoffs. However, they have a bit of a challenge because now they're in Buffalo against the Bills, who have been very hot. They haven't gotten a loss since week 12. They were 6-6, and now they won 5 straight games to end off the regular season. Buffalo is a good team, and they have been hot lately, and I'm looking forward for the Bills to probably beat Pittsburgh, to be honest. But the Steelers may never know. The Steelers could do something. I don't really know, but I'm going to say Buffalo. I'm going to trust my gut, go with Buffalo. Bills will beat the Steelers 38-17. Buffalo will head on to the divisional round. We move on with the next game. Coming up at our next game, we have the number 7 seeded Packers and the number 2 seeded Cowboys. AT&T Stadium, the Cowboys have been undefeated at home for this whole season. They have been playing very good lately. Mike McCarthy's taken on his former team that he coached. So this is going to be a pretty good game, not going to lie. But to be honest, my dad says, oh yeah, it would be pretty cool if the Packers actually beat Dallas. I don't think that's going to happen because the Cowboys have a home field advantage, and they always play so good at home. They also came back and won against my Commanders. I don't want to talk about it. Thank God they're not in. I'm glad Ron Rivera got fired, but we'll talk about that. It's for another day. But to be honest, I'm thinking that Dallas is going to win this game and pull a close one against Green Bay. Cowboys will beat the Packers 27-20. Cowboys will go on to the divisional round, and the Packers are going to be going back home. We move on with our next game. Coming up at our next game for our Sunday night matchup, we got a pretty good game. The 6-seeded Rams and the 3rd-seeded Lions. Rams, Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford both take on their former teams that they swapped with. This is going to be a pretty good matchup. This is going to be really interesting to watch. And the Lions, they won their first title game since 1993, the NFC North, and they even haven't won a playoff game for that long, to be honest. I was born in 2005. That's like 13 years of me not being born. It is that far since they have won that. It is crazy. Detroit is back in the playoffs, hosting a playoff game at their home stadium. But to be honest, I'm thinking that they're going to probably beat the Rams in a very close game, to be honest. Lions will beat the Rams 22-19, but people are saying don't count Matthew Stafford out. Don't count the Rams out. The Lions are a good team, though, and I really want to see them win their first playoff game in 33 years. So I'm going to go with Detroit and trust their guts, and I think they're going to move on to the next round. The Rams, I think they're going to go home back in LA. Let's move on. And last but not least, for our wild card game for Monday Night Football, we got the 5th-seeded Eagles and the 4th-seeded Buccaneers. Eagles are here after losing against the Giants, mainly because A.J. Brown and DeAndre Swift and Devontae Smith was hurt. That is a lot of Eagle players that are injured. However, they're going to be going on to Tampa Bay against Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. The Eagles have been very sloppy lately, and I still think they're going to probably beat Tampa Bay, and I think they could go on in the next round. And if they do, they take on the Niners. And if the Lions win, I think it's going to be kind of weird. So we're going to get to that when we talk about it, but I think that Philadelphia is going to hold on and knock Tampa Bay out. Eagles will beat the Buccaneers 24-13, and the Eagles will move on to the divisional round. And that is it for this week, everybody. These games are going to be a little bit shorter from now on because of the playoffs. But other than that, this is Anthony signing off, and have a great weekend and enjoy the playoffs of the football.